I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Well, we've been talking about art and science, creativity, and data, and I'm going to continue with that. Okay, and so I'm going to continue on with Jennifer Harvey's article, and she's getting to a conclusion. She said that consumers, 84% of consumers find digital experiences fall short of their experiences. And I don't know what that means, but as a result, marketers are facing pressure to return an edge in an increasingly competitive digital landscape and build personalized experiences that stand out in a sea of content, which is another challenge. The challenge of standing out may or may not be identical to the challenge of selling something. I mean, you need to get attention. And Cernovich says aggression brings attention. He says if there's a pickup basketball game on one corner and a baseball game in a sandlot on the next corner, and there's a fist fight across the street, everybody will stop watching the other two and they'll go watch the fist fight. So aggression does get attention. And then the question is, what are the implications of that? I'll bring you over to, there's a lot of articles coming out and saying you need to be a better storyteller. You need to be a better storyteller to stand out in the sea. Well, the three ads that everyone's talking about right now. The first one was the Kaepernick ad, which the hardest part for me was the guy falling on his face, going down. They were showing basically classic fails. And Google just announced that they're going to tighten up their policy on what could be potentially dangerous activities portrayed in videos. Because the classic fail videos, people are falling off cliffs and falling off, skateboards. And I have a friend who put up a video on Facebook of his little teeny daughter on a little teeny slide, but she doesn't quite know how to. He taught her how to go down it a couple times. Then she goes on her own and she just turns sideways and rolls down it. These days, people, you post that on social media and you get your kid taken away because it's dangerous. Anyway, someone died last week, apparently, something to do with Bird Box. And the Bird Box challenge is something that you try to do blindfolded. And there's this idea that, well, we'll try whatever we can think of to do blindfolded and see if we can do it and videotape it. Well, somebody tried driving blindfolded. And the problem with that is if you're not really good at it, I don't know that anyone is good at it, but if you're not really good at it, you're dead, which is what happened. And so that prompted Google to place the announcement that it's going to ban videos where people are really seriously getting hurt, okay? But that stands out. And Nike did some classic fail stuff and said basically if you try hard enough, you'll get it, which isn't exactly true either. If you wear these shoes, you'll jump as high as Michael Jordan. Not true either. There's a lot of false claims in those ads, but they're implied. They're not explicit. Anyway, so then the latest one is the Gillette ad where the men are, it kind of has this, the macho men are kind of saying boys will be boys and the let's just call them beta males are the ones breaking up the fights. I can't imagine that's going to help. I mean, it'll help Gillette sales in the sense that some people will think it's good. But long-term lifetime value? Great question. Great question. And on that note, we'll go over to the PETA ad. Okay? Oh my goodness. I'm not going to play it because it's too terrible. And it's terrible for a couple of reasons. This guy looks like some kind of stalker guy that you'd see in a horror movie. I mean, the thing begins with him, a close-up of his face, and his teeth are all out of whack and stuff. And basically, it says that PETA. It's a PETA ad saying that if you eat vegetables, you'll have better sexual prowess. That guy does not look like. I can't even look at this anymore. And you know, I don't know if I recommend that you go online. It's a big carrot. They have all kinds of vegetables and all kinds of guys set up. But one guy's really old. This guy is not, in my opinion. I don't know what a good-looking man is, but you know, that guy does not look like. It doesn't look like they're trying to portray good-looking men. I don't know. You know, again, will that get attention? Oh yeah, that's how I found it. It's getting big attention. Okay, so let's get back away from that. So attention isn't everything. Attention will get you influence. You will get your name remembered. And Billy Graham said, you know, just spell my name right. But, and I think there's something to that. You know, for Billy Graham, just come out. Maybe he was so persuasive that maybe people just did. But anyway, so people are going to buy more talent, more transformation, billions of dollars transforming their business to digital. But I would suggest that you keep an eye on the creative, because it's life and death, especially in digital. Everybody's diving into data. Okay, let me give you my background just a minute. I was actually more of an artist. I wrote songs in college, played the piano, played a couple of instruments, done a lot of things, wrote poetry, you know, painted pictures. My first experience in business, my first job that I just got hired for off the street, I would go door to door selling printing. And if somebody said, well, we don't have a logo, you know, we like business cards, we don't have a logo, I'd go home at night and draw it for them. I didn't know you were supposed to get paid for that. I just wanted to sell the $8 business cards. But anyway, so I got dragged into marketing because I had some graphic ability. So I started in page layout and design, but then I got into circulation, and then I guess you'd call it business intelligence now, and then was dragged into modeling. So I would suggest that data scientists, there are too few of them that are creative, from what I see. Okay, and the problem is, creativity is not dead. And the problem is, Scott Adams talks about the dichotomy in our society where someone says X. You know, the president says there's good people on both sides. And one side says, well, he's talking about some people love the statues, some people don't love the statues, and there's good people on both sides. The other side says he's talking about the white supremacists, that there's good people who are white supremacists. And that's gotten repeated. To this day, it gets repeated. But in a world where you're trying to get clickbaits and everything's measured and the data scientists are running the place, you got to have headlines that are crazy. And I see headlines like that on both sides. It does make me kind of crazy, you know. What can you do, right? And but it's not new. It's the yellow journalism. But today it's measured so carefully that it's like a necessity, or you're going out of business. And that's the danger. The danger is that we can't just go and say J. Randolph Hearst and remember the Maine and creating the Spanish-American War is terrible, but we always have the New York Times. No, the New York Times does it too. Washington Post does it too. And they admit it, and every now and then they recant on page 27. Okay, but let's go over here because I really want to get to this article, which talks about the dichotomy. Aristotle, yeah, I don't know who wrote this one, but it was a good one. And Stephen Mumford, and from a while ago, and he says that Aristotle kind of divided the subject areas up, although the scientist in Aristotle said things like the reason that objects fall down is because they're happier as they go, kind of thing. Kind of goes along with the ethics of Elfland in Chesterton. Most universities have distinct facilities of arts and sciences, for example. Actually, at Madison, where I went, there was the Department of Arts and Sciences. So they pushed them together, I guess. Okay, but he points out the very best scientists display creative genius. Think about Einstein, and creativity alone doesn't deliver anything. You can sit in your tree and you can wax poetic, but if you don't write it down and publish it, you won't be. I have a friend that I did never think he was a great artist, but he's a really good promoter of his art. And he's gotten to be fairly notorious, in the region for he's pretty good too. Actually, he's gone a long way, and I really like his stuff now. So, hey, but creativity alone, like I painted a few things. I had an agent, had my work in his gallery, but I didn't put any effort into it. So that's me, creative without effort. You've got to attain a mastery. I mean, look at. I went to Florence and saw the I think it was Leonardo da Vinci statues that were half carved out. I think it was da Vinci. I saw a lot of stuff in Florence, and it's just unbelievable skill. Just unbelievable. And we saw the David there too. Unbelievable skill. Just working with stone. I mean, it wasn't just whether he was great at seeing. He said he was releasing the figures from the stone. Well, that might be, but you're really good at it. Now, the distinction between science and art. I actually worked on David Hume's argument against miracles as my master's thesis, and he thought that the body of verification had some merit, but my critique of him, which wasn't really that groundbreaking, was that science moves ahead more by falsification than by verification. So millions and millions of high school physics students have dropped little weights with pieces of paper that confirm the acceleration of gravity, more or less. It's not that accurate. Hopefully they have a better way to do it these days. But, it verifies it. Does that move science along? No, none, zero. The next time that experiment is run, it might in that one student's head, but it doesn't advance the body of work. Okay, so falsification, then became the idea that defined. Karl Popper proposed falsifiability as the criterion of science. So you can't really falsify art, but you can falsify a hypothesis. But it turns out it's almost impossible to do it because there's such confirmation bias and there's so much behind it that unless it's even Copernicus, putting the sun at the center of the solar system versus the Earth at the center, that took hundreds of years to even get the bugs knocked out of it. So, and that's pretty obvious. Get a telescope, you can watch the moons go around Jupiter, and you've got our moon that seems to be going around the Earth, but that doesn't necessarily falsify the Ptolemaic system. So where are we going with all this stuff? Where are we going? Well, the challenge is that creativity is essential because you need something that's going to resonate with people. There needs something that's going to get their attention. Part of my frustration, and now I haven't promoted it at all, is that these videos haven't gotten more attention because I think there's some things that are worth saying. Maybe they're not that creative. Maybe they're not that thought-provoking. I have to think about that. Okay, but the data isn't going to tell me anything because there's not much data. And often in a startup, that's the case. There's very little data. So you start with art, as the sourcing expert told us. You start with trial and error. You start doing things. I've been told you have to do this a year. And then maybe it'll take off. Well, we're going to do it a year. I haven't missed one day so far. And a couple of other extra days thrown in. So there is some effort put in. There's some creative, there's some effort, and there's some science to it eventually. So if we're going to take AI and revolutionize our business, I really, really believe, and I recommend my book on this, because there's a lot of that in here, is that what we did in the beginning was we applied predictive modeling theories to direct marketing, and we made a lot of money for people. But I don't think we were very reflective about it, and now we're starting to get there. And so now maybe it's time after 25 years to take stock and think about how the same principles have applied across many different puzzles in different clients and in different products. We'll see. I hope you subscribe. I hope it makes you think. I'm John Miglosh, WDMA, International Society for Strategic Marketing.